Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision. Today we'll be talking about an Amazon FBA business for sale, and I've got the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Alex, and how are you doing?
Great, thanks.
Yeah, that's great. I'm looking forward to definitely talking more about your business. And just before we dive in, let me give a very brief summary of the business for our listeners. Today, we're talking about an Amazon FBA and e-commerce business created in November 2012 in the sports and health and fitness niches. The average monthly revenue for the business is $47,823, and it makes an average of $7,813 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are the Amazon Seller Central account with 9 active SKUs plus 6 inactive SKUs, 2 domains including all of the site's contents and files, 11 additional domains, 2 trademarks registered with Amazon's brand registry, an email list with around 1,400 subscribers stored in Klaviyo, supplier contracts and relationships, employee contracts, and social media accounts. Please note that inventory isn't normally included in the listing price, and further details can be provided to active buyers. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 53872 to learn more about the business. Or you can unlock the listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So Alex, that's just a very general overview about the business, but let's find out about yourself. Can you share with me what your background is in building or running online businesses?
Yeah, thanks, Vinny. So I started this company back almost 9 years ago now. I was in the sports business and saw an opportunity to target a sports and sort of health and fitness niche and launched it. I was still consulting and launched it on the side, and basically it took off like a rocket ship. Just first product hit the market well and immediately launched 2 or 3 others. And then over the course of the next couple of years, launched a total of, I think it was about 18 products. So yeah, as you mentioned, we've got 9 active ones now, and then another 6 or so that are basically seasonal products.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense why you started the business in this particular niche, because it sounds like your professional background is in there. But why did you start something in Amazon FBA specifically?
Yeah, good question. So at the time, almost 9 years ago, FBA was a pretty new concept, and just done a bit of research on the real bottleneck for me was like how to get the direct consumer, the product to the end user, and FBA really solved that problem for the industry. Obviously now Amazon is much more widely known. Of course, it was widely known back then, but as a seller of goods, distribution was really tricky. And, Amazon FBA and Prime just really solved that problem. So it was, even before launching the business, it was like logical fit for us to go through Amazon FBA.
I think that's a really great answer. Yeah, people who aren't experienced with e-commerce, like you said, it can be really overwhelming when you first see it, especially the distribution side and even the logistics side as well. You've got to figure out so many moving parts and trying to manage it all at once. And I think that's the beauty of FBA. It just, once you get the inventory from the manufacturer to, your 3PL or the warehouses, is basically considered done at that point. The FBA just handles it all for you. So that's definitely a great answer. Now, like you mentioned, you've built the business over all these years to a considerable size, but our listeners will be wondering why you're selling the business instead of staying with it or growing it.
Yeah, so this company was my first foray into entrepreneurial life, and I launched a second company a couple of years after this one. We're actually including that brand in this sale as well, which I'm sure we'll get to. And then since then, I've launched a couple other companies, and I'm basically knee-deep in a new company. It's a software company, and we're gaining lots of traction and raising capital, and it's just moving forward. And I've got investors and I've got a business partner, and I've had a great run with this Amazon business, and it's basically just time to move on and try something new and focus on something new.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Let me just move over to your experience as you were building this business. Was there anything that you learned that you would be applying to future sites or businesses in maybe the same niche or an FBA?
Yeah, sure. Good question. So the main thing that I learned was the supplier relationships, and, our products require a bit of, chemistry, I guess you could say, to get them to market. And so I basically, become an expert in that. Any buyer of this company and the other second brand will also quickly become an expert in the production of the product and R&D for new products. And that's something that, it took a while to get up to speed, a couple of years, but, a lot of that legwork has already been done. And, we have some absolutely fantastic relationships with our suppliers. Basically, 2 of our 3 main suppliers are companies we've been with since the very beginning. So we have really strong relationships with them. And, it's a good partnership. So we both learn from each other in that respect.
For sure, yeah. Is there any software or tools that really helped you when you were trying to scale the business or just help you run the business?
We use a lot of the sort of standard products that are out there, Feedback Genius and Seller Labs products. We've dabbled with probably all the big names out there, Helium 10, Silozo. We use an ad software system called Ad Badger. Yeah, and there's a handful of tools we've tested over the years. We've gotten it down to maybe about 7 that we use consistently, not just sort of Amazon specific, but it's important to not discount some of these other great software products out there that companies can use for their small businesses. I mean, even something as ubiquitous as QuickBooks. TaxJar is great for, managing your taxes and state by state taxes, that kind of thing.
No, it's great that you say you tested a whole bunch of products, which is, I suppose, part and parcel of the FBA journey. I mean, it's great that you managed to get it down to a core sort of suite of, say, 6 or 7 products to sort of manage all the different operational sides, as well as it sounds like the accounting and finance side as well, which is definitely important. Alex, you were just sharing about what worked for you in terms of the supplier relationships, and that's just one aspect, but was there anything that you tried that didn't really work for you? Just anything that wasn't giving you the ROI you were hoping for?
Sure. I mean, entrepreneur life, it's not always about success, unfortunately. So yeah, we've for sure had a lot of failures along the way. We've had a couple products that we've launched that have been duds. We've just continued those or run the inventory out, and, you move on to the next or double down on the ones that are working. So a lot of that takes time and money, and those products are still available. In some cases, they just need to be refreshed or thought about from a different angle and started over. In some cases, maybe they're just better to not relaunch. But yeah, I mean, entrepreneur life it's all about managing failures and seeing the positive in some of these failures and learning and moving forward.
For sure, yeah. I think that's definitely very well put there. I just want to quickly segue over because I noticed from your listing copy, there's actually a second brand that's included with this sale. Do you want to briefly just talk to us about what the second brand is like?
Yeah, absolutely. So the second brand has some really unique credentials, if you will. There's a USDA organic certification. There's a non-GMO verification and also a Leaping Bunny certification. These products took over 2 years to basically design and develop. And it's important to note that we own the intellectual property for the chemistry, if you will, for this second brand, but also the first brand. So we own all that intellectual property, which means the guidelines and manufacturing specs. And the second brand did take a couple of years to develop. We have an amazing opportunity with this, and there's a handful of adjacent SKUs that we have ideas for, and we've reached out to suppliers to expand that market. Should the buyer have any interest in that, we can obviously make those introductions. And actually, I would like to go back to the first brand. It's important to note that we have a handful of SKUs that are ready to be researched and developed and just a few months out from launching if that's something the buyer is interested in as well. And that also would be our chemistry, our R&D, and our intellectual property.
That's great for sure. And just checking as well, the second brand is also in the same niches or in slightly different niches?
Generally, it's a totally different category. So I would call it a different niche altogether. That being said, the products are similar and similar manufacturing. So there is potentially some supplier overlap there, but we learned how to make the second brand and second company, through the blood, sweat, and toil of learning how to build the first company.
For sure. That's great to hear. I want to ask you now about the marketing side of stuff. What do you currently do in terms of marketing?
So for a long time, we had a very active social media presence, and that was on Facebook and Instagram and a bit on Twitter as well. That we found we did get a fair amount of engagement. We didn't see a super strong ROI, although that said, I would certainly add that there's a big opportunity for the potential buyer to take advantage of that. You know, somebody who's younger and more social media savvy than I am to take advantage of that growth opportunity. I mean, social media is obviously huge and Facebook Marketplace is getting bigger and bigger. So there's definitely an opportunity there. In the early days, we did a lot of sort of grassroots PR, reaching out to bloggers and lifestyle media who had an interest in testing our products, and they would write positive reviews. And to this day, we still get purchases on our site from those early days of blogging. We also have reached out over the years to some big publications. We've been written up in some major North American publications, including Forbes, Runner's World, Women's Health, Backpacker Magazine, Yoga Journal. So we have a good media presence that could actually be continued. There's no reason why that would be a good place to stop. So that's been really helpful. We get hits on our Shopify site and presumably with Amazon as well via those outside channels. So that's sort of the outside PR. We're not spending any money these days on outside ads, but we do spend a fair amount of money, and it's a good ROI on Amazon through the various PPC programs and lightning deals and things like this.
For sure, it sounds like there's a good range of exposure there from different avenues, different traffic channels. I guess by extension then, can you describe to me what the sort of day-to-day or even weekly tasks are required to basically maintain the business right now?
Yeah, for sure. So it's worth going back to one of your earlier questions related to the supplier contracts and relationships. Like, we've really just had a great relationship with those suppliers, and over many years, almost 9 years in both cases. And because of that, it makes life pretty easy for myself, and I have an operations manager. That manager works less than 5 hours a week. She manages day-to-day tasks, customer service, some shipments from manufacturers to our 3PL, occasionally tweaking our listings, and both on Amazon and off Amazon. We sell on Shopify site, we sell on Walmart and eBay. And, there's a little bit of managing, those day to day, but those hours are down to 5 a week, and my hours are less than that as well. So it's pretty automated, to be honest, at this point.
That's great to hear. And is the VA willing to continue with the buyer after the sale?
We haven't discussed that, yeah.
Okay, no worries.
But presumably, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she wanted to continue on.
For sure, yeah. Let's say that if you did stay with the business and you weren't selling it, what would some of the major opportunities for growth be that you would look to explore if you wanted to expand the business?
Yeah, great question. So I see both of these companies have a bit of two-pronged story. There's both a cash flow story and a growth story. So the first company, we've been in business for almost 9 years. The cash flow is very predictable. That obviously helps with our monetization and our multiple. And then there's an amazing growth story. So we've already been approved to sell on the Amazon Mexico, Canada, Saudi Arabia, Japan, and EU marketplaces. I think also Australia as well. That's an amazing opportunity. We have 6 SKUs that are seasonal, they're inactive. And some of those SKUs can be merchant fulfilled through, their inactive season, I guess. And, there's an amazing also an opportunity. As I mentioned, one of our manufacturers is working with us on essentially building out a new adjacent line of products. And, some big consumer products companies like Procter & Gamble and Unilever have similar products, but they're not really focused on this niche that we're in. And so we believe there's a really big opportunity to carve out a nice niche for us in this adjacent line of products. And of course, as I mentioned, there's those social media accounts, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I would also say that our particular niche, it would be a really good opportunity to reach out to influencers. And there's some pretty good technology now with Shopify. There's some apps that can connect you with influencers. And some of those people would really be able to extend the brand's reach. We also have about 1,400 Shopify email list, 400 subscribers. Some of those are repeat subscriptions. And then we have about 1,000 Amazon Subscribe and Save customers, and all those opportunities can be pushed.
That's great. There's definitely lots of avenues to explore in terms of growth. What would you say are some of the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
I don't see any major risks. I mean, there's of course Amazon's a big behemoth, and they can always change the way they do business. we've been in business and selling on Amazon for 9 years. So, we've had a couple hiccups along the way with Amazon, but we've never had anything major, and it's always been manageable. So I wouldn't see any major risks other than, the Amazon potential change of Amazon terms of service and this kind of thing.
For sure. Last 3 questions from me here, Alex. How much support are you offering buyers?
30 days. Yeah, 30 days is included with the sale, and happy to offer additional support beyond that for an hourly or contract relationship.
For sure. And are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And are you open to negotiating something like an earn-out, seller financing?
Yes, also have no problem with that at all. Leaning more towards, cash up front or a majority of the cash up front, and, any opportunity or any earn-out afterwards, would be icing on the cake. But yes, certainly leaning towards the cash up front.
That's great to hear. Last question really from me then. If you put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why would you say that this is a business worth buying?
As we've chatted about, like, both of these brands have both a cash flow story and a growth story. And you're getting 2 brands. One in particular has an amazing, almost 9-year cash flow story. And then a handful of these growth opportunities, 1 or more of those can really push this company to the next level. And then the second brand also, there's some adjacent products to be launched and, an amazing brand, amazing organic and non-GMO certifications that nobody else has in that particular market. And again, amazing growth there as well.
That's great. Is there anything you'd like to share that you think I might have missed?
The only thing I'd mention is that both of these companies have been my babies since the beginning. They've both been built with care. I'm a perfectionist, so I managed and built them with care, and sad to see them go. But for me personally, it's just time to move on, and professionally as well. I've got a new company, but I really want to find a buyer who's interested in moving these to the next level, who has a personal interest in this particular niche and wants to see some of the great success through to the next level.
For sure. Thanks for sharing. I mean, Alex, it's been great having you on today's episode. I really hope to see your FBA business get picked up by the right buyer in the very near future.
Great. Thanks so much, Vinny.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 53872. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.